One of the things that I like most about Vegas Pro 12 is that it becomes very easy to work in parallel with the main user interface as we are seeing here and with the mixing console just at the flick of a button. And I like that because it means if I want to add some effects, which is what we're going to look at in this tutorial, if I want to add some effects to an individual track or even to the master output track so that the effect affects all our tracks equally, well, as you're going to see, Vegas Pro 12 does make this a very simple task. So far what we've heard is the stereo track that features the drums and the bass and the vocals and a little bit of lead guitar at the end. We've also got a harmony vocal that we've heard too. Now what I did in the previous tutorial was add another track, another blank or empty stereo track, and I did that in preparation for inserting an already recorded guitar track that is featured on the studio recording that we've heard throughout this course. Now I wanted to place it onto a new track of its own, this guitar, so that I can mix it, or at least create a remixed version, here within Vegas Pro using the mixing console. So let's have a look at this. I'll just zoom in a little bit here, and if you notice down on my guitar track, the guitar seems to be broken up into sections. Well, I've purposely done this, and you'll see why, or rather, you'll hear why, in a moment or two. First of all, have a quick listen to the beginning of the original guitar track. I'll select it up here in my project media. It's this one here called Guitar Police Verse Edit. I've only called it that because the actual guitar playing style reminds me of Andy Summers from The Police. Who? I hear you cry. Ask your granddad. Anyway, this is the track, and because I want to have a quick listen to it, I'm going to click on our preview play button here. Okay, so that's a flavour of it. Now, what I want to do is remix this guitar into our track using the mixing console. So remember, all I need to do is click on here to open up our mixing console. Now, I do want to make the footprint a little bit larger on our screen, so I'll drag here to enlarge, and I'll do this side as well. And in fact, I'll drag down too, so that we see more of the mixing console. Now, I didn't mention why in the previous tutorial, why you could see this area up here. Well, these are the VU meters. If you don't want to see them, or at least if you want to make them smaller on the screen, then left click here and just simply drag up, and that reduces their size. Alternatively, if you don't want to see them all together, well, come down here to where it says VU meters and click on here, and that makes them disappear from sight. Okay, now if you don't even want to see the in and out options, maybe because you're just remixing and you don't necessarily want to record anything new directly into your project here, then by clicking on here, well, as you can see, that does allow us to claim a little bit more space at the top of our mixing console. Okay, so that's our mixing console set up how I like it. Well, certainly for this remix project at the moment anyway. And one of the things that I do like about this is if I close it down, when I subsequently open it up later on, then Vegas remembers how I last left it. Now we'll come back to that in a moment. Just for now, I want to zoom right in close on our guitar track. And as you can see here, I've been busy cutting up this guitar track so that only small snippets remain. And if I just solo it, I'll just play the beginning for you. Here we go. And you can probably tell that there's some reverb and some delay, or echo, shall we call it, just on this guitar track. And in fact, if I click on here to bring up our audio track effects just for this track, then as you can see here in my chain, I've got this simple delay and reverb. Now let me go through this delay first of all. By selecting it here, then you can see I've not got an awful lot of parameters that I can adjust, but I have got enough to make it a great effect that I want to use blended in with the original guitar track, now that I've cut it up into various small sections. Now you might notice in this checkbox where it says tempo sync delay, well, I've checked in there so that the delay repeats or bounces or echoes, shall we say, in time with the tempo of our track. If you don't want that, then of course uncheck it. Well, I do want it, so I'm going to check in there. And if you want a different preset, well, click on here, this drop reveal, and you'll see quite a number. Now I'm going to leave it at quarter note. I want my repeats to repeat or echo a quarter note behind the original guitar. And because there are a number of echoes or delays gently fading away, well, I want those to be in sync as well. So I'll check in here, tempo sync delay. I'm going to leave my dry out set to 0 dB so that I'm getting the full quality, shall we say, of the original dry guitar track, but also for my delay. Well, I've taken it down so it's not so prominent, but still does feature. So if I leave it around about minus 17 dB, then the echoes will repeat at that volume, but of course adjust it as necessary. Okay, now I'll click on the cross to close, and what I'll do is I'll unsolo this track so that you can hear it now blended in with the rough mix of the drums and the bass and the vocals and the harmony vocal. And what I'll do is, so that we're not distracted by the visuals, I'm going to mute our video track so that we can't see it, and I'll hit play so that you can hear what this sounds like. Here we go.
White star rocket ships fill the air with the roar of drums and the sound of I don't care. I can just imagine what's going on in there, but I cannot fathom.
Okay, well, I'm hoping you could hear that delay and the reverb on the guitar, and because it's not so prominent, i.e. the guitar doesn't feature all the way through the track, what I've tried to do with this remix is provide a little bit more space or air, so that when it's played back with the video, then anybody watching it who doesn't know will assume, or that's the intention anyway, will assume that this was the sound recorded when they were playing live within their rehearsal room. That's my intention with this remix, to make it sound as if it's just a simple stereo live recording. Now, I'm going to leave this tutorial here, and I'll follow up in the next tutorial by going back to our mixing console so that we can adjust the levels or the pan of our audio tracks. And just in case we start getting any clipping, I'm going to add an effect, maybe a compressor or a limiter, to our main master output. Okay, I'll see you in a moment.